As we continue to move towards Little Durk's trial, we have to keep our eye on his docket. The entries from yesterday. We're going to go over some of this new paperwork, and some of it is going to say, yeah, things got worse for him. But then there's other pieces that we're going to look at and say, wait a minute, he just caught a victory right there, a big victory. So we'll see. We're gonna go through a one, two, three, four, about five pieces of his docket or different motions and different responses from the prosecution, and then we're gonna determine by the end of the stream to see, like, all right, did it get better? Did it get worse? Do y'all feel a little bit better as far as his not just his options but his chances leading towards trial? I don't know. I don't know. We'll go through all the details. But in other news today, I want us to keep up with things like the FBA gambling investigation. I want us to keep up with this whole NBA YoungBoy movement. But I'm going to start with battle rap. All right. TBL, big announcement yesterday. Did y'all see the trailer? Did y'all see the news? All right, let's go there first.
Yo, TBL, you wanna try this again? Alright, well, come on, man, let's try this again. Yo, he living off of what he did. I'm eating off what I'm doing now. I don't care about no blueprint. I'm the one they listening to now.
You played 4 quarters. I sold you half, and I often fast. I seen teams recover from everything, but I never seen them rebound off the glass. Nigga, that was a quick.
The biggest event in 2025 that could happen would be you versus Easy in Philly.
All right. No. Hitman. Let a man with hits holler at you. You could start first and then finish last. Reed had it in the car, but you had it in your bag.
Philadelphia, Volume 1. We in the city.
Easy the block captain versus Cassie. Philadelphia, Volume 1, December 6th. Get y'all tickets ASAP before you realize who we standing next to. Oh, you gonna find out. We got a lot to talk about. And I'm making the weekend a whole spectacle.
More news to come in regards to him saying, I'm making the weekend a whole spectacle. I shall remain silent about that. I ain't gonna say too much. There's a lot going on that weekend. But as far as this battle right here, it's been locked in for a second. All right. There's a lot of people that knew behind the scenes. But I heard about 35 minutes of rapping like 2, maybe 3 weeks ago from Cassidy. No bullshit. No bullshit. And then I would say like a week and a half later, he let me know that his first round was done. And I hit him like, how much of the rapping did I hear that's in your first round? And the nigga said none of it. This motherfucker Cass is just right in his act. But I ain't gonna lie, the shit that I heard on the phone, he was just rapping. And I was like picking out certain pieces that I was just like, that right there, that's kind of crazy if you go there. Oh, that piece right there, that's a little spooky. I ain't gonna lie. Cass is Cass, man. There's no denying his writing ability, and his accolades. Easy is easy. Easy's one of the best battle rappers on the scene. He is one of battle rap stars. I've had all types of debates about this matchup as far as underdog. Could it be a clean sweep? Could it be a defining moment for Cassidy? It's in Philly. That adds a big angle there. It being in Philly will possibly change drastically even the angles and the directions that they go with their rounds. Because all this talk about you're not from here, or you're not from there, or you're the man over here, or you was never the man, or I own shit now, or I still run shit and I'm the king, and who all of that, the energy, the people that show up, the people that are standing behind Cassidy, the people that are standing behind Easy, how the crowd reacts to them rapping. That level of respect should come with the fact that you are the king, right? Whichever one. You the man out here, right? So you got to write to that. Like, they're going to write towards also trying to put on for Philly legacy. Like, who really runs this shit? And I heard in the trailer, Easy said, I don't give a fuck about that blueprint shit. I'm what's popping now. But Cass got those angles like, nigga, I'm the one that birthed a lot of you mother. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Shout out to TBL. This is a huge announcement. They have been on back to back to back to back to back major, major, mega main event announcements. I can't wait to see something like the Face Off. Easy loves to argue. Cassidy is pretty much considered the GOAT when it comes to Face Off, if not one of the top people. I can't wait to see this Face Off. I can't wait to see the promotion, the rollout, everything leading towards, what is it, December 8th, the matchup. Shout out to everybody, man. Shout out to Cass, Easy, two of my guys. Shout out to TBL, Kenny, Chilla over there. Y'all doing y'all thing. All right, let's move on. Quick pit stop for continued eyeballs on the THF Bezu situation. We're going to keep monitoring all the activity around it. Remember, he had that old throwback video, that live, legendary live with 051 Melly. And they were going back and forth discussing live by the gun, die by the gun, right? And Bezu was saying, yeah, I don't want nobody crying for me at my funeral. You know, instead, what I want is 20 for 1. You guys know what that means, 20 for 1, right? I'm 1. If I drop, go ahead and let 20 people drop behind me leaving. Wow, that's a lot. I'm pretty sure the task force and the police department is heavily eyeing that shit as well. But looks like THF Bezu people is preparing to drop the 20 bodies he requested if he was ever to be unalived. This is the streets. This is how shit go. It's a revolving door. You take some, you lose some. Yeah, it's the real member, but unfortunately, this is a revolving door. So take heed of that. And then a red blood drop. Zoop for life. And this was posted by Ward _ 54. I'm sorry, 4554. Okay. What's this next one? According to rumors, a Black Disciple gang called Bashville Crazy from 71st and Wabash, Chicago, are allegedly behind the murder of THF Bezu. Apparently, this is retaliation for a gang member named Man Man. Man Man's murder. Man Man was allegedly killed for shooting and killing THF TP. So that's definitely looking like revolving door shit, right? One goes and the other side goes, and one goes on the other side. And I think the first coverage we did of this, I did mention the Man theory that's out there. Okay. Bezu in the streets has been tied to the passing of Man for quite some time, right? It's not some sorry it's true shit. This is what's been in the streets and been talked about on the internet for a long time. All right. But Man allegedly being responsible for a THF member going, right? So back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's like these guys get advised about leaving Chicago every angle that they turn. Remember when FBG Duck is sitting up there with DJ Vlad and Vlad's like, yo, leave Chicago. And Duck is like, I can't leave Chicago. Where do you die? Chicago. You know, Bezu, they say temporarily he was in Georgia, right? And then some would say after Durk got indicted, many members, including Bezu, went back to Chicago, whether that was out of their own want or necessity. I ain't counting people's pockets right now. I ain't getting into all of that. But in any event, back in Chicago, and that's what happens. Okay. Ironically, even some of the most reckless people that we see even today on the internet, they're not there, right? Like King Yella. Now, Matt, if you see King Yella live to 75 years old while still talking smack and acting, you know, the way that he acts, right? How much would that prove out just location? Where you stay at, where you grow up, where you do the most of your dirt, where the most people know you, where you gang banged allegedly, where you may have taken lives, where you may have hurt people and all that. That's the place to leave. Okay? Period. It should be that simple. But it is what it is. All right, let's move on. NBA Youngboy. So with his rocket takeoff this year, even though he's been a big artist, he's always had a huge following. I just didn't know the ties between Baby and Youngboy ran that long and that deep until I started seeing reminders on the internet. What does this one say? 5 years ago, Birdman told Lil Wayne, NBA Youngboy will be one of the biggest artists.
Now, which young artist in the game now you think got what it take to be around for a minute? I think NBA YoungBoy gonna be one of the biggest artists we ain't seen.
Okay. You like YoungBoy?
I said this 5 years ago. This little boy was gonna be super special.
Oh, you been heard him?
Yeah, I've been with him. I've
Okay.
been with him for 16.
Okay.
But I think he's gonna be one of the biggest artists we done seen. Something about the NBA is different.
He got the melodies. He got
He
the melodies. Once he learned to turn that into, he gonna turn it into that shit gonna blossom to something else. Watch.
And the little nigga just 20. He just turned 20.
Yeah, so very young too. Yeah.
You know, about when you was 20, you was big. But I think by the time he get 25, he gonna be something we ain't seen yet in the game.
That's why I say it's gonna blossom into something else. That's what I just said. Now,
hey, and shout out to Baby. You know, staying alongside YoungBoy, promoting him, believing in him. You know, when we saw him on stage for the verses, and he took his speech at the end to diss Turk, and then also shout out NBA YoungBoy. I admit, I was one of the people that was just like, why are you not just shouting out the moment? Like, just stick to Cash Money. And, you know, we see you run around with YoungBoy. Cool, we get it. But that's his guy. That's a movement that he's a part of right now. That's what he's pushing right now. At a time, Baby was heavily pushing Lil Wayne, rightfully so. How about Drake? Rightfully so. How about Nicki Minaj? Rightfully so. And now YoungBoy. There's probably a lot of people that you co-sign over the years, somebody that's in a Birdman position. People that don't latch on or become megastars. You know, it's lightning in a bottle sometimes. You got other times where it's like, I really, really see it in this person. He's got all the elements. He's got the charisma. He's got the talent. He's got the attractive nature to the public. He's got everything that you see the star qualities in them. But even those times, they don't pan out. But he was right about YoungBoy, right? And yeah, you can't take anything away from Baby as far as their history there. This is one that I saw as well. Let me check this out with y'all.
No wonder NBA YoungBoy only smiles that genuinely when he's around Birdman. Most people don't realize Birdman completely saved his career. YoungBoy's tour is still lighting up every city. And this time, when he stopped in Colombia, things felt different. He surprised the crowd by bringing Birdman on stage to perform with him and even sang a song he'd never performed live before. Of course, it was hard not to notice YoungBoy's face. For the first time in a long tour run, Kentrell was truly smiling. That big, real smile we almost never see from him. And it only showed up when Birdman was next to him. So why? The truth is, Birdman means everything to Kentrell. He once admitted Birdman treats him like a son and truly believes he's destined to become one of the greatest artists alive. There's no question YoungBoy's success wouldn't be what it is without Birdman. Birdman himself has said that when he first saw YoungBoy's talent, he wanted to bet it all on helping him leave the streets behind and focus on music. He even traveled along with a Massa tour to make sure YoungBoy didn't run into financial trouble during his first major run. Even through YoungBoy's darkest moments, Birdman never gave up on him. Instead, he kept pushing, guiding, and protecting him, making sure he stayed out of trouble. So do you like this father and son duo of music? No wonder NBA
Hey, like I said, good to see, man. Good to see. Shout out to NBA YoungBoy. Shout out to Baby with the early predictions and support for his folks. All right. Moving on now. Where we going? We going to the NBA. Pardon, folks. Hold on 1 second. I hear a big ass noise in the background, and I want to come and do on my audio. Hold on 1 second, people. All right, now we good. We back. Okay. So following up on this whole NBA stuff, the NBA's memo to teams on Monday, obtained by ESPN. All right, so let me read this with y'all. Given the spread of legal betting to the majority of the U.S. states, the reoccurrence and of integrity issues across sports, the emergence of novel betting formats and markets, this is the opportune time to carefully reassess how sports betting should be regulated and how sports leagues can best protect themselves, their players, and their fans. While the usual betting on Terry Rozier's unders and in March 2023, game was detected in real time because of the bets were placed legally. We believe there is more that can be done from a legal regulatory perspective to protect the integrity of the NBA and our affiliated leagues. So that's where they cleared him, saying that it was a legally placed bet. But what about his play on the court that got people looking at him crazy? But once again, the NBA cleared him, so they can't spin the block and go at him for that, right? But and that's another reason why he's pushed out real quick. He's like suspended, same as Chauncey Billups, suspended with leave. Like I said, that's kind of HR-ish to me. It's like, all right, we got issues. You're being investigated with you right now. You really shouldn't be paying, but we can't take your salary from you. You know, the moment we stop paying you, you got legal, causes and possible targets against us too. So, in particular, proposition bets on individual player performance involve heightened integrity concerns and require additional scrutiny. We have also begun a process of reviewing league policies regarding injury reporting, the training, and the education of all NBA personnel, and safety measures for NBA players. With sports betting now occupying such a significant part of the current sports landscape, every effort must be made to ensure that players, coaches, and the NBA personnel are fully aware of the dire risk that gambling can impose upon their careers and livelihoods. Well, they definitely should be aware of that. You saw that take from Shaq. He was just like, when he's talking about Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups. I think he was talking about Chauncey Billups. He's like, you make $9 million a year. Like, what more do you want? Like, why would you jeopardize your career and your family doing that type of shit? Right. So the risks are the risk. You can't stop people from gambling. You can't stop people from wanting more money and all the different reasons why they get into what they get into. But that our injury disclosures rules are appropriate and that players are protected from harassment from bettors. And there lies the big hole, the big gap. How do you stop that type of information from going to my homie, my cousin, my friend, a fucking mafia captain, or you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you stop that? We also are exploring ways to enhance our existing internal and external integrity monitoring programs to better utilize AI and other tools to synthesize all available data from betting operators, social media, and other sources to identify betting activity of concern. Yeah. But you would have to be step in step with all these different betting platforms. No, like even when you introduce AI or elements that can predict or analyze or find trends in data, that's like saying, we watch Luca get injured on the court tonight. We watch him have a high ankle sprain, seems severe based on them carting him off of the court in a fucking wheelchair. Right. Now, we've seen people have high ankle sprains and they be out for a very, very long time. Other people might come back in a couple games. We had that legendary Paul Pierce example where he gets carted off in a wheelchair and then he comes back out in the same game and people laughed at him like, yo, why did you need a wheelchair? Like, that was a little dramatic. So you don't know. So we all see that though. Now we all see that. And then people will start placing bets based off of that. Cool. But now when you start to have, like, let's say post x-rays, okay? And then all of a sudden you see a spike in the same type of bet. Things that are obvious, more obvious in patterns analytically to show, like, all of a sudden a bunch of people from Staten Island, New York bet $50,000 that ARP will not be on the next stream. That type of shit. Analytics to show, like, wait a minute, that's a little obvious there, that pocket right there. It's not just generalized because we've seen this guy get injured. It looks like something that's kind of like a red thumb right there. But the NBA would have to be in step once again with those betting houses and those different betting companies. No, and they would have to want to be a part of that because they're raking in the money. They get all the money in. So still big holes in that. I just don't see it. What is this? This is saying the NBA informed its 30 teams that the league has begun process of reviewing policies regarding injury reporting, training, and education of all personnel, and enhancing internal and external monitoring programs to identify betting activity of concern, per memo obtained by ESPN. All right, and there you have that. That's an update from the NBA, and that's the notes that's been going to all the 30 teams. I don't think that's a major step. I just think that that's a public statement. All the major changes are yet to be revealed. We'll find out about that stuff as time comes, while we keep an eye on all the charges in the trial and all the new people that get brought in and get mentioned and the alleged snitching and whatnot. We'll keep an eye on it. All right, let's start to move into the world of crime. And before I get into Lil Durk's paperwork, I saw this and I was just like, man, you just never know what you're gonna see on the internet. Just when you thought you saw it all, right? She killed her husband for giving her an STD.
This court sentences you to 120 years in state prison without the possibility of parole.
Hi, y'all be playing. I ain't living that long. Joke's on you.
This court sentences you to 120
Look
years
how
in
lawyers
state prison
head, dude.
without the possibility of parole.
Hi, y'all be playing. I ain't living that long. Joke's on you.
Jokes on you? All right. Just when you thought you seen it all right, yo, it's just incredible, B. People's mind states, people's attitudes towards their lives, their freedom. The only justification I could give you here, people, is she was convicted. She knew what she was facing. Her lawyer super braced her, like, yeah, you're probably going to get life. You're probably going to get some football numbers, probably at least based on what you were convicted on, maybe 50 years, yada, yada, yada. So she already walks in there knowing, like, fuck it, it's over. It is what it is. And then when the judge says that number, it's like, the number really didn't matter based on the minimums. So you saying 120, kick rocks. It do be bugged out though when we hear people get like multiple life sentences and whatnot, right? Like you have life 3 times and those terms are going to run consecutive. It's like, why? Like, what point are you proving here? Is it a legal thing just to keep, the legal process consistent? Is that why? Because you literally do got people walking in there and they tell you got 120 years for this. And then you got life for this. Then you got this other life over here, and that's all gonna run consecutive. And it's like, huh? I don't get it. I don't get it. Smokey from the chat says 120 years is diabolical. I mean, she killed her husband. We don't know the details. I mean, allegedly, I'll still say, right? It's, I can't trust everything on the internet, but it says for giving her an STD. You just don't know how that thing went, but. All right, y'all ready to get into Lil Durk? All right, so Lil Durk, we know what he's going through with his whole murder for hire case and his co-defendants. We're seeing the impact, I'll still say allegedly, throughout his whole team, OTF. Members from his camp, if they're not incarcerated with him, we've seen others get shot since. We've seen THF Bezu pass away the other day. They get joked on for being back in the hood, all this type of stuff. Like THF Bezu, I think, had up a post one time that they joked about on Reddit. He was selling like smoke detectors. You see other people selling like clothes. It just is what it is. But Lil Durk, when we focus on him, him being the mega superstar that he is, when you ask yourself, how do you get involved in this stuff, but you have the whole world? We've had this conversation a million times, but his fight continues. Okay. Will he get super duper football numbers? Well, that's why we're keeping an eye on the activity, right? All right, let's go up first. Some of this back and forth that's been happening on his docket and some of these updates yesterday. Very, very significant stuff. And when we get to the end, I want y'all to say it got worse, it got better, or it's both. It got worse in one area, got better in another area. So what is this one? This is the government's opposition to defendant Durk Banks' motion to dismiss for vagueness in the alternative for a bill of particulars. So we went over that, feels like maybe a couple weeks ago. Him and his attorneys going after dismissal, saying that there was a lot of vague nature to his superseding indictment. Some of the stuff that they were calling out, I keyed on and I said, it's two things for me. One, your lawyer is doing his job. And if you really have good angles towards the superseding indictment and hoping to find areas of dismissal, then you do it. We watched Brian Steele during the YSL trial call for mistrial like 50 times, right? Did he get any? Like a lawyer lawyering. You take your shots. That was one. I still will say respectfully, there could be grounds for them to feel like there was solid reason to go for dismissal. Okay, cool. The second one, though, that I really keyed in on, I was like, yo, this looks like Durk is really trying to pull for information, right? It's going to better help his defense, of course. It's going to help him prep for trial. It's going to help his attorney know what they're going to be facing when they get to trial, and allegedly allow him the ability to get into the streets. What do I mean when I say get into the streets? If I can identify a witness, I might could send somebody to have a conversation with that witness, allegedly, right? There was already claims of witness intimidation within this trial coming from Durk's side. It's all alleged, right? But that's what I really thought that his attorney was focusing on as well. We want more information because it could benefit us one way or another. So here's the government's opposition for the dismissal. Let's go down this a little bit. If we look at the table of contents, statement of facts, the murder for hire and conspiracy to commit murder for hire charges. We know about that. The SSI explicitly lists the elements of the charged offenses and provides ample details of a murder plot, including facts about each defendant's role. We know about this stuff, the argument, we know about this stuff, and then it gets to the conclusion. All right, let me try to get back down to where I thought when I skimmed this morning was some of the important pieces. The second superseding indictment. Yes, we know about that. The statement of facts, the murder for hire and conspiracy to commit. We know about that. Yes. Okay, let's start here. The SSI explicitly lists the elements of charged offenses and provides ample details of the murder plot, including facts about each defendant's role. Count 1 explicitly sets forth the object of the charged conspiracy as the use of facilities of interstate commerce, namely commercial airlines, to fly to California from Chicago and Florida, rented and stolen cars, cell phones, and the internet. Wow, you can get hit for interstate commerce simply by using the internet? That's a first for me. Okay. With the intent to murder TB in exchange for a promise and agreement to pay money or lucrative music opportunities with defendant's record label OTF. This would be big if they can see this. I haven't seen this on one of the indictments, right? Or the superseding. I don't remember seeing that. You know, a screenshot or a text message showing Durk promising somebody from OTF like a label. Well, let's be more specific. If you kill TB, you know, then I'm going to give you this record label deal, or I'm going to give you $100,000. I haven't seen that yet. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, because I am very, very of high belief that there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes into trial that we haven't seen before. Hell, it's happening crazily in Julio Fulio's trial, and they're just going after the suspect that's there for pretty much conspiracy for murder, not one of the actual shooters, right? So who knows? But the section setting forth the manner and means of conspiracy further alleges that the co-conspirators, including defendant Banks and Wilson, would recruit others, including defendant Jones, Lindsay, and Houston, and co-conspirator 2, to find, track, and kill TB. Count 1 goes on to list 27 overt acts, naming specific acts committed by the co-conspirators. Co-conspirator 2 here still isn't named. I guess based on who you ask, people are gonna say, "Isn't that Brick Baby?" You don't know. It's all alleged. It's all alleged. Could be an informant once again. Could be somebody that's still in the wind. Could be somebody they don't want to expose yet. Could be somebody they don't want to charge yet. All different types of scenarios while they put co-conspirator in the paperwork. All right. So we know about the August 18th. Let's keep going. Like count 1, count 2, the substantiative murder for hire charge plainly sets forth the elements of the crime, that defendants each aiding and abetting the other knowingly use facilities of interstate. No, that's not it. The government has produced substantial discovery underlying these allegations. To date, the government has provided substantial discovery to defendants consisting, among or other things, approximately 37,000 pages. Fuck. 37,000 pages of reports and records, including over 250 pages of Jenks material from multiple cooperating witnesses. Big. Multiple cooperating witnesses. That's 2. So we got 37,000 pages. We got multiple cooperating witnesses, and we got this 310 gig of audio, video recordings, and materials from extraditions of over 30 digital devices and accounts, including social media. With each production, the government also provided a detailed index listing the discovery being produced. All right. The legal standard, this is where they're outlining that they met that standard. For example, it must provide enough information so the defendant can understand the charges, prepare a defense, and claim double jeopardy where appropriate. If they felt like they turned over enough for him and get together with his lawyer and then, put together their fight, then fine. But still on Durk's side, no, I can't prepare for XYZ. I want to know who said I would give them a record deal. I want to know who's telling on me. You know what I'm saying? All right. An indictment, however, need not describe the government's evidence, plead evidentiary detail, or identify all of the facts supporting the allegations. You see, this is what I mean about stuff coming out of trial for the first time. That's what I mean. Therefore, an indictment may track the statutory language or adopt other language as long as the indictment sets forth the essential elements of the charged offense. Okay, it says this is more stipulations as to why the SSI is plainly valid on its face. Going over count 1 and count 2. Likewise, although the conspiracy count is not required to state the object of the conspiracy with the detail that would be required in an indictment for committing the substantiative offense, the detailed object, manner, and means, and 27 overt acts provide defendants with more than adequate notice of the charge against them. Adequate notice. There we go. So I was right. That first time where I'm just like, yo, they're going for early info that the prosecution is saying is protected from a witness standpoint as well, and we don't have to give you yet. Yeah. It's pretty clear. Is there any other big sections here before I move on to the next one for you? A bill of particulars is not warranted because the indictment and discovery in this case are sufficient to allow defendants to prepare the defense, avoid surprise at trial, and avoid double jeopardy. So avoid surprise at trial. That's my whole thing. That he's going to be not fucking surprised, but shocked. But in legal terms, what do they deem surprise at trial? It's maybe legally they deem it's not surprised at trial if it's protected by this Jenks or Jenkins Act or whatever. And I pulled that up so I can give y'all the definition of that, which is pretty much like the protection of witnesses. Let's hold before we go there. The language that Mr. Banks allegedly used to convey his offer of pecuniary bounty in exchange for the murder, there it is right there, of TB. So they're saying that they do have it. The language Mr. Banks allegedly used to convey his offer of a pecuniary bounty in exchange for the murder of TB. Okay. The nature of the item of pecuniary value, the monetary reward or music opportunity that Mr. Banks is alleged to have offered and or delivered in exchange for the murder. So we saw social media stuff of money, right? People playing like Instagram stories with, I think, Aha or Durk'S songs playing in the background, and little youngins flashing money and whatnot. We saw some of that stuff. It may have been in the original indictment, or it might be in the superseding indictment. It might have even been in the indictment from Chicago that is about that the Mac shooting, allegedly tied to D-Thing, his brother being killed, a alleged revenge hit for that outside like that youth center or whatever, right? But we did see that. Them using that, in paperwork, not just on the internet, us connecting the dots. We saw that in paperwork. All right. The date, time, audience, and circumstances of the alleged bounty offer. Okay. The language used, date, time, audience, and circumstances related to at the direction of allegations in the indictment. Okay. Defendant's requests are improper, and any event underlying facts have already been produced in discovery. Underlying facts have already been produced. Okay. Underlying. Is that there outright there under the Jenks Act? Underlying facts. I have to produce the underlying stuff. Okay. He's getting shut down here. I mean, this is the government side of why they're opposed to it. The docket, hopefully within days, will show the judge's decision on this, yes or no. But this clapback for not dismissing due to vagueness within the indictment, it's pretty solid from what we're seeing here, just from interpreting the verbiage. Conclusion: for the foregoing reasons, defendant's motion to dismiss the SSI or for a bill of particulars should be denied. Okay. All right, let's move on. Next up, we got this is the government's opposition to defendant Banks' motion for early return of Jenks Act material. So there we go. So that's one thing I want to bring up for you guys. What's the Jenks Act? Where did I pull that up in the background? You know what? Let me just Google it again for y'all real quick. We want to make sure we know what that is. What is the Jenks Act? But it's definitely related to like protecting witnesses. All right. The Jenks Act is a 1957 federal law that requires the government to produce prior statements of its witnesses to the defense in a criminal trial, but only after the witness has testified on direct examination. Its purpose is to allow the defense to cross-examine the witnesses using their own prior statements to test credibility by using the statements for impeachment purposes. The biggest piece right there for me is after testimony, after I get my ass to court and I get up on the stand and I get examined by the defense and cross-examined by the prosecution or whichever order, right? After. That's the Jenks Act. So back to the motion now, us seeing that, government's opposition once again to defendant Banks' motion for early return of Jenks Act materials. They're opposing that. All right, let's see what's significant in here. This opposition is based upon the attached memorandum. Yep. Okay, the government has already produced a significant volume of Jenks Act materials and will continue to comply with its discovery obligations. Defendant seeks a court-imposed deadline of 45 days before trial for the government to produce all Jenks Act materials. Motion that his request should be denied, as the government has already produced a substantial volume of Jenks Act material, including numerous statements of oh, shit. Oh, that doesn't identify them though, right? So they've given Durk and his camp numerous statements of cooperating witnesses. So Durk, I mean, they already knew, of course, but even legally in a discovery process, they've handed that stuff over already. I bet you they weren't identified by name, But I bet you it's like a statement of somebody cooperating with the authorities saying, yeah, he did promise me a record deal if I was, going out there on this hit. But Durk could be like, man, I don't believe y'all, or which one of my dudes said that. I want, so they turned some of that stuff over to them already. Okay. And will continue to comply with the discovery obligations in a timely manner to ensure a fair trial for both parties. Okay, under Jenks Act, the rule, both parties must disclose prior statements by witnesses relating to the subject matter of their testimony after the witness has testified. There it is. That's big. So if that is the legal Jenks Act procedure and law, how do I assume that when the judge rules on this motion, he's going to go in any direction other than denied for Durk? That's why they created the Jenks Act. You can call it unfair. We can call it shitty, just like the RICO. But hell, it's existed for how many years? 1957. 1957, they created that shit. Wow. All right. As a defendant acknowledges in the motion, the government began producing Jenks Act material from anticipated government witnesses in July of 2025, including from multiple cooperating co-conspirators. Wow. So it's one thing to just say you have cooperating witnesses. If you witness something, what's a witness? I used to be, or I am a part of OTF, and I've witnessed Durk paying for shit to happen to people in the street. I'm a witness. I've witnessed this before. But a cooperating co-conspirator? So other than his co-defendants, which would be co-conspirators, right? We got a couple that's unnamed, and we keep sarcastically saying the person that was feet on land getting the drop and letting them know, hey, it's time, fly your ass out here. TB is out here. People keep thinking the brick baby and shit like that. Just imagine if it ever comes out that brick baby allegedly is the co-conspirator that's cooperating against Durk, being that he's over there fighting his own shit. Just imagine. Can you avoid that at trial? Including from multiple cooperating co-conspirators. Multiple. Let's stay out of the court systems, people. It's scary shit. All right. To date, the government has produced over 250 pages of statements from government witnesses and has already reached an agreement with the defense to produce certain more sensitive materials, some of which fall under the scope of the Jenks Act, including recorded interviews of cooperating witnesses. Oh. Wow. Pursuant to an AEO, attorney's eyes only protective order in coming weeks. So we know what that is, right? AEO, attorney's eyes only. That means that if I turn it over to you in discovery, here I am, the prosecution, and I give this to the defense. I give it to the defense attorney, who's that, Finling or whatever that's defending Durk. I hand it over video of one of the cooperating co-conspirators sitting there in the fucking detective's box, cooperating, giving up information. AEO means that I can't show that to Durk and I can't give that to Durk. I see AEO stuff much more like in things that have to do with money, things that have to like protect business and, the secret sauce of how I run my metrics behind the scenes to produce profit, or how much did Mercedes make this year in profit? How much did we spend on tires? You turn that stuff over, but it'd be marked for attorney's eyes only. I normally see it in stuff related to numbers, but here we go for cooperating witnesses stuff. So how do you defend Durk? And you got to keep it legal. Like if we're just really following the law here, his lawyer got to stay clean and use it for his legal defenses. Because the moment that this gets turned over and a witness ends up with a note in their fucking mailbox on some dark low type shit, right? you know what the prosecutors will do? They'll turn back around and say, hey, is there leaks between attorney and client for something that was marked AEO? And Lil Durk can't afford to have no witness intimidation claims come out right now anyway. I'm just saying. All right, the government made these early disclosures willingly and without court-imposed order, as it furthers important interests in ensuring a fair and speedy trial. Okay, all right, let's continue. The government is fully aware of its obligations under the Brady Gigolo and Jenks Act. Okay, in conclusion, for the foregoing response, defendant's motion for early production of Jenks Act's materials at request for a cutoff for production of 45 days before trial should be denied. All right, there's another big one that we got to go to. There's another one. We got one more and a half, only because the next one really isn't from updates on this docket, but it constitutes this one that we have up right now. All right. This motion here, the government's opposition to defendant ASA Houston's motion to dismiss count 4 of the second superseding indictment. Okay, plaintiff United States of America by and through its counsel of record, yada, 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 files its opposition to defendant ASA Houston's motion to dismiss count 4 of the second superseding indictment in the above captioned trial. The motion has been joined by defendant Durk Banks, that's Lil Durk, David Bryan Lindsay, and DeAndre Dontrell Wilson. I believe DeAndre is Didi, right? Okay, this opposition is based upon the attached memorandum, yada, 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 yada. Let's skip down. Now, here's one of the ones that may be big for Durk, if I remember glancing this correctly. Memorandum of Points and Authorities Introduction. Count 4 of a second superseding indictment, which is the SSI, charges defendants with a violation of 18, yada, 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 for use, carry, and discharge of firearms, including a machine gun. Good old switches that we reported on yesterday, Glock is trying to get rid of. During and in relation to and possession of such firearms in furtherance of 2 predicate crimes of violence. You got murder for hire resulting in death in violation of this particular code or charge. And then you also have stalking resulting in death in violation. Okay, as charged in count 3. After further consideration, this is big, people. After further consideration, the government has elected not to proceed on the murder for hire predicate for count 4 because that conviction carries a mandatory minimum penalty of life imprisonment. Therefore, a conviction with that predicate does not impact the ultimate sentence. With respect to the stalking predicate, the government now elects to proceed only under that particular law or code, that the defendants engaged in course of conduct that placed the victims in reasonable fear of death or serious bodily injury resulting in SR's death, not under and in that code or law there. A court, let's try to summarize that. It seems odd when you just read it, the black and white of it, to hear that the government is no longer going after the murder for hire. For Lil Durk's friends, families, fans, that would be mega, right? Now, one thing I'm not crystal clear on because I'm not going to read the entire superseding indictment today. When you have a count, let's try to break this down. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best lawyering right now. DW, if I'm wrong about anything, please hit me up, DM me. Let me know what I got to correct. What's a count? A count to me is just like count 1 doesn't always mean the same thing in my case, in your case, in that person's case, right? The count is like the laying out of in order of what the person is going to be or is indicted for or being charged or going to fight in court. So count 1, gun charges. Count 2, kidnapping. Count 3, conspiracy. Count 4, illegal gambling, right? What are the statutes? Because we're going to go over some of these statutes that we see from the from the count that's including the murder for hire. The statutes to me are like the crimes, right? So a statute of like when we see these weird ass codes. All right, let me just make sure y'all can see this on my screen. When you see something like this, like imagine this was like written as a statute 2261A. I interpret that as saying in possession of a legal firearm, an illegal firearm, or in possession of a machine gun. Okay, to me that's like the statute. And then you have the predicate act, right? To me, my understanding is the predicate act is like the situation that includes the statute. So if the statute is illegally possessing a submachine gun, then the predicate act could be me driving around stalking somebody with this for the intent of a revenge shooting while I got this statute of illegal firearm in my hand, right? So count, statutes, predicate acts. That's how I interpret it. Okay. So going back to this now, with respect to the stalking predicate. So that's why I just said driving around looking for somebody. To the stalking predicate, the government now elects to proceed only under and then whatever this guy is. So going back to what we read here for them no longer seeking the murder for hire, the reason why that was a little odd for me here is because it says that they're saying they're no longer seeking it because it carries the same type of penalty of life that would be like redundant. We was joking earlier about saying like, isn't it bugged out when we see somebody get life plus life plus life ran consecutive, but it's just the legality of your conviction or your sentencing, right? So why would the government drop murder for hire saying, let's read it again. Murder for hire predicate for count 4 because that conviction carries a mandatory minimum penalty of life imprisonment. Therefore, a conviction with that predicate does not impact the ultimate sentence. Would they really want to drop murder for hire only because they feel like him facing life is already covered or being on the table from other predicate acts or other count? Like, that makes me scratch my head a little bit, because I like to be objective, and it almost makes me think like maybe y'all aren't confident in the murder for hire specifically from a trial standpoint. And maybe that's why Durk is over there with his lawyer saying, show me where I paid somebody. Show me where I promised somebody a record deal. I want to see that evidence. I want to see that. And then miraculously they come and say, no, we're not interested in that. Interesting, right? I don't know how else to interpret that right now, but we shall revisit. Let's continue. Accordingly, the only question now before the court is whether the current version, yada, 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 is a crime of violence. Although no court of appeals have yet addressed this issue. So the crime of violence, the stalking, etc., if you can determine that as a crime of violence, but them saying that it can cause it, like how do you? It's a little vague. Well, I shouldn't say vague. It feels more generalized, which benefits the prosecution, which benefits them and has their ability to go in like a broader attack, in front of the jury to me. And Durk wants specifics. It's tactical on both sides. It makes sense to me on both sides. Okay. Stalking in violation of section whatever is a crime of violence. The categorical and modified categorical approaches. Under the elements clause of section 924, a crime of violence is defined as a felony offense and has the element the use, attempted use, or threatened use of physical force against the person or property or another. So it's stuff like this, the reason why Durk doesn't have to get found guilty of pulling a trigger. The threatening piece is there as well, or threatened the use of physical force. So just predict now. You're going to get into trial, and them pushing for this threatening of use of physical force would be a lot of the lyrics, a lot of the why don't you book a show in Atlanta and see what happens type of lyrics. A lot of can't wait till we catch you. A lot of if you book a show, we're gonna be there. Like, you know what I'm saying? And he could end up catching felony shit behind this type of stuff due to the result of these people losing their lives. It seems almost semi unrelated from just a technicality, but this is how it goes. This is how it goes. Scary. All right. In determining whether a crime falls within the elements clauses and thus constitutes a crime of violence, the court applies the categorical approach. Under the categorical approach, the only relevant question is whether the federal felony at issue always requires the government to prove beyond a reasonable doubt as an element of this case to use attempted use or threatened use of he's going to get killed by the threats. He's going to get killed by them at trial. Legal standards governing divisibility. I don't think we need that. The stalking statute, okay, is divisible. If a statute is indivisible and criminalizes a broader range of conduct than would fit the federal definition of crime of violence, there is no categorical match, and that ends the inquiry. Okay, defendant contends that is the situation here. He is wrong. The modified categorical approach applies because section 2261A is divisible into at least 4 parts. Let's see if they show these 4 parts. First, the statute is plainly divisible between, okay, whatever that code is. This is because it requires that the government prove a defendant traveled in interstate or foreign commerce and was present within the special maritime and territorial jurisdiction of the United States. Why did he go? Why did he go? Why did he get on? Why was he in California at the time? Allegedly. Oh, okay. So that right there is going to be tough, a tough fight. Let's see if they got the other ones here. Whereas the second one requires proof of entirely different conduct, namely that the defendant used the mail, any interactive computer service or electronic communication service or interstate commerce or any other facility of interstate or foreign commerce. So any DMs, any text messages. Yo, I swear to God, learning today that traversing interstate commerce can also include the internet. Jesus Christ, that's a broad net. Y'all can get swept up in that so easily and just saying use of the internet. That is scary. Okay. What else did they continue on? Continue or second, the statute further criminalizes various forms of stalking, each of which concern different conduct and involving different proof. Relevant here, subsection 2 sets forth the distinct ways it can be violated. Engaging in conduct that places that person in reasonable fear of the death of or serious bodily injury. So that is crazy to have to fight. Places that person in reasonable fear. So if Quando Rondo has any, which I think he does, interviews or whatever with them asking them, yo, allegedly, I hear that there's a $50,000 bounty on your head, right? Invoking fear, because Quando Rondo's got interviews talking about stuff, addressing when they ask him about Durk and the beef and bounties on his head. Lil Tim probably answered bounties on their heads in his Vlad interview as well. All of that becomes subject. All of it. Just creating the fear. Wow. All right. So a small category of victims, fear of death or serious injury. You can be charged for that, people. Wow. All right. The wording of the statute alone makes clear that the conduct enumerated at subsections A and B involve different elements. The fear of death or serious injury prong criminalizes conduct that puts a person in reasonable fear of death or of serious bodily injury to a victim and immediate family members. All these threats online and on Instagram and on niggas' stories and whatnot. Wow. Wow. Hell, Lil Reese could have got caught up in that just from the JoJo shit, right? If he was ever charged of anything. The infamous video when JoJo and them drive by, right? And Reese screaming, "Yo, John, when I catch you, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill." The threats. Wow. All right. So more reasoning and logic why they're saying he's still not meeting the requirements as far as his dismissal. Let's see if they got other big pieces as to why they're proving them wrong. Because the court should apply the modified categorical approach, the court can look to additional documents, including the superseding indictment, to aid the analysis. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. As multiple district courts have reasoned, it is impossible to conceptualize an instance where the individual engages in a course of conduct that puts someone in reasonable fear of death or serious bodily injury to himself or another without engaging in conduct that, at minimum, threatens to use of physical force to a person. At the very least, the stalking statute is divisible as to the basic and aggravated death resulting offenses. And the death resulting offenses at issue here is a crime of violence. And there you have it. Wow. All right, let's see what they got for in conclusion. For the foregoing reasons, the court should hold that 18 U.S.C. is divisible and 18 U.S.C. along with these other codes as charged in the superseding indictment is a crime of violence under the elements of clause 924. So I can't wait to see the judge's response to that one. Going back to this count 4, though, I just want to, this is from the superseding indictment. So this document right here is old people, but I wanted to see count 4 for itself. And we see the statutes in here. And before I move forward, I brought up in the background a breakdown of those statutes for y'all. So 924C, that makes it a crime to use, carry, or possess a firearm during the relation to a crime of violence or drug trafficking offense. Okay. 924C is also labeled with, well, 924, I should say. It's labeled with C, it's labeled with 1, it's labeled with A, and it's also labeled with III. Okay, so for all of those 94Cs, the second one is adds extra penalty if the firearm is discharged. Well, how else was he killed, right? The third one is adds more penalty if the firearm is a machine gun, silenced, or destructive device. Well, destructive device should be for all guns, right? Silencers, everybody knows you can catch charges for silencers in certain states and under certain conditions. But there goes your switchy machine guns there. That's in that one, that particular statute. And the last statute that's highlighted underneath all of those guys is if someone, no, I'm sorry, there's 2 more. If someone dies because the guns used during the crime, it can be treated as a murder with, so murder, that's that statute. Death or life imprisonment, that's that statute, okay. And the last one is the aiding and abetting statute. Means you can be charged if you helped or encouraged someone else to commit the crime. That is spooky for Durk. If they have all these different pieces of evidence or text messages or lyrics or Instagram post or, yeah, you know we did it, all of this stuff, the aiding and abetting statute means you can be charged if you helped or encouraged. You don't even have to help. You don't even have to say, here, it's my credit card, go buy the ski mask. That I consider helping, right? But encouraged someone else to commit the crime. Wow. So that's these statutes that they're all being hit with people under count 4, because you see all defendants. just like when we went over Surf's paperwork and we saw the count 1 in his paperwork was the RICO, and everybody was in it. So in this count 4 in this indictment, those statutes that we just read, they're all being hit with it. They're all encouraging each other, right? It sounds crazy. On or about August 19, 2022 in Los Angeles County, within the Central District of California, defendants Durk Banks, also known as Lil Durk, yada, 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 yada. I'll just say the alias is Vani. We know Vani. We know Didi. Okay. You got Brown Eyes and you got Boogie. Together with co-conspirator 2, that is killing us. Who the fuck is co-conspirator 2? Together with co-conspirator 2, each aiding and abetting the other, knowingly used and carried firearms, including firearm that defendant Grant, Wilson, Jones, Lindsay, and Houston knew to be a machine gun, switchied, during and in relation to and possessed such firearms in furtherance of crimes of violence, namely use of interstate facilities to commit murder for hire resulting in death in violation to Title 18 United States Code, this particular section as well, as charged in count 2 of this second superseding indictment, and stalking resulting in death in violation of Title 18 United States Code, section yada yada yada, as charged in count 3 of this second superseding indictment, and also doing discharge the firearms resulting in death, the death of SR. Okay, that's the count 4. So we say all that, people, to then turn around and ask the question. As far as these updates leading towards his trial, did things get worse or better for Durk? I'm going to say absolutely worse. The better piece of it would feel like that little gray area that we read of them saying they're no longer pursuing murder for hire. The only thing I wasn't sure of is, was it murder for hire only within that count 4? And I would have to go back to the full superseding indictment and read if murder for hire is included in any other of the counts. But within that count 4, murder for hire, they're no longer pursuing that, right? Seemed odd to me the way it read. Seemed odd. Like, why not? Because you're telling me because it carries a life sentence, which is already covered in other sentencing guidelines for these other acts and these other statutes. Like, I don't know. I'll continue to try to figure that out a little bit more. So that's a plus, right? But them revealing that they have X amount of hours and pages and video of the co-conspirators cooperating, and they're going to turn over some of it for attorney's eyes only. The other stuff they're dismissed, or they're trying to stop Durk in his tracks from getting his hands on, saying it's protected by the Jenks Act. And no, you'll find out about some of this stuff and some of these people after they testify in open court. Fuck. Spooky. The dismissal, I don't think it was ever meant to go anywhere in the first place. So the motion to dismiss due to vagueness, it's a shot. Go ahead, you and your lawyers take the shot. I doubt it, right? The give me more information about my co-conspirators and these alleged witnesses and whatnot and cooperators. Well, we got some Jenks Act protection over here, and what we are going to give you is AEO, and it's not even going to be everything. See the pros in that if you want, okay? And even the statutes related to count 4, even if you don't go after murder for hire, the other ones being compounded, it's just like, it's bad. It's bad, but that is Lil Durk's update. All those pieces and those motions hit his docket yesterday. And now I will keep my eyes out for the judge's ruling on those motions. Now that the defense submitted for those things, prosecution answered, and we'll see what the judge says. All right. Shout out to the chat. Oh, shout out to Miss AB in the building. Says, have a great day today on purpose. Yes, people. Let's all strive for that today. Did y'all catch last night's live? I randomly went live. It was about 6:30 p.m., something like that. Something in that area. Yeah, matter of fact, it was like around 6 p.m. Because I saw the video of the prosecution laying out ATK and Young and Ace in the Julio Fulio trial. What was it, day 4? And it was wild to see how much they named by name Young and Ace, how he's coming into the trial described as the leader, how they're at beef and at war. It's just like, how do they not go for Rico? If this is what the prosecution is presenting, then why wouldn't you want these people? It's scary. Check out last night's live, people. The title says something like Young and Ace and ATK exposed in trial day 4 of Julio's trial. And you see in my thumbnail, I put Rico because it's a valid prediction. May or may not happen, but it's a valid prediction. Okay. And last thing I'll ask y'all before I get up out of here is anybody else watching the Welcome to Derry? So it debuted yesterday. It's the It series on HBO Max. So I watched it when it debuted 9 p.m. on Sunday. I thought it was good. I thought it was good the first episode. What took it up a notch was me going on the internet yesterday and watching some of the Easter egg breakdown videos. That really jumped the episode a lot for me. Like, it's all the stuff you missed and all the tie-ins and the building of what they did with that first episode. I'm like, So if you're a Stephen King It fan, join on board, folks. I'll be giving maybe random updates about how the series is going. And there's another series that dropped. I think it's on Netflix. Monster. I might start watching that. He almost seems to be in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of direction. From the trailers, it looks like a guy that was like so in love with his mother. When his mother passed, he like, I'll stop there. Let me watch the first episode and then I'll come back. Well, yeah, I might get into that. But yeah, everybody, jump on board with me, man. If you're into Stephen King It, and if you're into series, let's start watching this Welcome to Derry series, man, because the breakdowns got it looking very, very promising. So we'll see. All right, here we are, just over an hour in. It's 7:11. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Everybody, let's get to it. I know Tuesday is that kind of grayish day, like, we in the trenches with it, but let's keep moving. Let's keep staying positive. Let's keep staying productive. And we will be back. If something else happens that triggers me the way I did last night, we'll be back maybe in the afternoon random. If not, you know where to catch us since tomorrow is Wednesday. Yes, 6 a.m. We'll be here. All right, be good.
Don't confuse silence with work ethic. I'm a boss making decisions, my first fetish. The verse cherished is perfect, that's a reverse blemish. I dropped it, connected the block, learn Tetris.
This is the Sorry True Podcast. Welcome to the house of. And shout out to the members.
Without, I think still got a gun.